truth, you forget the rest. You propose the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity when they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steve Fun Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
I'm just telling you, if that song ever hit the airwaves, that would be a top 40 song. It's better than anything Lara Trump could do. I'll tell you that much. Few things. The big thing I'm going to talk today about is AI bubble, which is really, really, really scary when you start looking into it. I remember before the housing bubble popped, there were all these people that were saying stuff that it was going to pop, and they got ignored. The AI bubble is going to make the housing bubble look insignificant. But then we'll take a few other things before we dive into that. Feel free to comment. I think the comments were working yesterday. They should be working again today. Oh, hey. Hi, Mr. Kitty. Kitty's hubby was in the background there. So, the first thing is Bill Clinton testifying today. I still, I can understand why they would talk to Bill Clinton. He had Epstein over at the White House for a few times. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he did anything. And I think there's maybe there was some kind of, after he was busted, he went to Hillary Clinton's wedding as a guest of one of his daughter's friends. Not that he was directly invited. So it's not like he took his family with all his nannies to Epstein Island for lunch or something, but yeah, so at least he went, apparently he answered all the questions relatively cordially. That didn't seem like there ended up being anything that came out of the Hillary stuff. Still don't know why she was there. Like, what were they hoping to find from her? She literally never even met the guy. At least, they've got some pictures with Bill Clinton and whatnot. I think, Kitty tells me that there's some probing worth doing there. But, nobody's accused Bill Clinton of doing a crime, at least not in the Epstein files. There's nothing there to even any accusations. I think one person has said that she saw him on the island, but that was sort of debunked because it was while he was president and his schedule doesn't match up with that or something. But I'm not the expert on that. Anyway, he went, he answered questions. Why can't Donald Trump? That was what some of the people said. Some of the Democrats said afterwards. Well, he set the precedent for the presidents. So if he can go, why can't Donald Trump go? Donald Trump knew Epstein way better than Bill Clinton did. And this is something I was thinking about. Call me crazy. But on the one hand, you got these people that want me to believe that Trump was the whistleblower, right? And they, he called this sheriff and he said that he knew something was going on and he was really glad that they went and they busted him real good. And they want me to believe that on the one hand, that's true. But then Donald Trump is telling me he had no idea what was going on. He didn't know anything about it. How can you have a whistleblower that doesn't know anything? Like, this is Schrodinger's MAGA all over again. Like, at the same time, he knew everything, and he's the only reason that Epstein got busted. But on the other hand, he doesn't know anything. So if he does know everything, and that's why Epstein got busted, why not have him come in and answer questions? Like, if he knows things, ask him questions. You're asking a woman that doesn't know anything questions. Why don't you ask him? Even if he didn't do anything, even if he just knew things, like you say he did. Anyway, so there's that. Then there's the whole Iran thing, where I don't know, we're getting close to war with Iran. I think you don't have that many. You don't have that much force over there unless you plan on doing something with it. And it looks like now they're talking about maybe Israel will attack Iran, and then Iran will attack Israel back, and then that'll be our excuse. It looks like they're trying to find an excuse to start a war with Iran. Okay, so he's an informant. He knows what he knows from participating. That would definitely be a possibility. I don't think that he would be an informant. I don't think he was an informant, by the way, but he's not the type of person that's going to flip, because that would mean he had to admit that he did something wrong. He would be too vain to flip, not out of some loyalty or something. But this idea that he caught on and he knew Epstein was, some sort of shady character, there's proof that he continued years in his relationship with Epstein after he knew he was a creepy dude. He wrote a birthday card to him celebrating that he was a creepy dude. Like that you just have to be gullible at a certain point to believe the things he says. But anyway, so Iran, he's trying to start a war with Iran. We already had a war. We already conquered Venezuela. Yeah. I think he walked that back. If he were an informant, the Epstein file, like they would, if he were really an informant, you know how they're always saying that well, if Joe Biden had, if Donald Trump was in the records, Joe Biden would have said something. If Donald Trump were an informant, that would have been the first thing that came out of the Epstein files. But he's saying he didn't know anything. He didn't have any idea what was going on. He was his best friend and went to sex parties with him, but he didn't have any idea what was going on. So is it he didn't know what was going on, or he did know what was going on? I mean, I think he knew what was going on, and he's not an informant. So I don't think either option is anyway, you know what I'm saying. So now today, I don't know if you heard this, but now he's talking about a friendly takeover of Cuba. Skippy's right. If Don was a whistleblower, he would never shut up about it. And Kitty says Donald Trump is a pedophile. There's no, he is a pedophile. Ooh. That's what we should call MAGA. We should call MAGAs pedophile files. Because they love them, they're pedophiles. And a murderer. And a child murderer. Hoping he will sue me. Get that discovery, right? So anyway, he's trying to get back again to Cuba. Did you hear what he said about Cuba, Skippy? About the friendly takeover of Cuba? So he wants to he's already conquered Venezuela. Now he wants to conquer Cuba, and he wants to conquer Iran. Mr. No New Wars here. Just going on an empirical spree. Files fans. We need to like have a mascot. Somebody needs to design a Files fans mascot. I don't know. That might get me banned from YouTube. Hello, purr. She's growling. All right. So anyway, that's I was thinking somebody might have something more to say about the whole conquering Cuba thing, but I guess not. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, the main thing today, I don't know, maybe today's show will be a shorter one. We'll see what happens. The AI bubble, a $2 trillion pyramid coated in baby oil. And I was rushing this out. This is actually supposed to be a human pyramid. So if you can imagine a human pyramid where all the people are all slathered in baby oil. And not only that, the biggest, fattest dude of all is the top person in the pyramid. And they're all holding each other up and they're standing on each other's slippery shoulders and all of that. And then you got the big fat dude up there. And if the big fat dude topples, the whole thing falls down and you've got this big mess that no game of Twister could ever untangle. It's going to be a mess. So I'll go through and I'll explain what I mean by that. Instead, if Biden did that, we would ask, what if Germany did that today? Yes. What if Russia did that? What if Russia went and conquered another country? Or Germany? I mean, like we're on country, like Cuba would be nation number 2 that we conquered. Iran would be nation number 3. At what point do we become the biggest threat in the world? Cuba will go like Greenland, a lot of yapping, nothing happening. Well, I wonder, well, I think it would maybe depend on what China would do. Greenland's still ongoing. Yeah. I think they reached an agreement. This is one of those things where Trump negotiates himself to the starting point. I think he got out of Greenland exactly where we were at before he started all the nonsense. But then he ran victory laps around it. So all of MAGA thinks he may manage to do something. Yeah, there was like some sort of peace agreement or some sort of agreement reached, which was more or less nothing. So if you can imagine a human pyramid, all the cheerleaders are all just coated in baby oil, fully clothed, of course. And they're all standing on top of each other, and you got this big fat dude on top. That's what the AI bubble is like. So what do I mean by that? First of all, the big fat cheerleader in this story is OpenAI. Right now, it's got $1.4 trillion in compute commitments. That is a lot of money. To put that into perspective, the GDP is $32 trillion. That's 3 times what Elon Musk is worth. Like, that's a lot of money. A lot of money. And it's making, in revenue, total revenue, $20 billion in 2026. And they're going to lose $14 billion. So you got this $1.4 trillion company that's actually losing $14 billion. This is all banking on the future. This is all just betting on the future, I should say. It's that some point it is going to be worth that $1.4 trillion. It's going to be worth that value. But right now, it's not worth anything. It's losing $14 billion this year. And it's not like, oh, next year it'll be better, or the year after that, or even the year after that. From now through 2029, it's projected to lose $115 billion. And this company that is worth about 5 to 6% of our entire GDP is going to lose $115 billion over the next several years. It's spending 70% of its revenue, or 70 times its revenue, not 70%, 70 times its revenue. This isn't sustainable. It's a bet that the future revenue will be astronomical. Like, think about how much money is involved in that, because this is the first thing, just the massive amount of money, and then it's a massive amount of debt. And so the thing about debt is when you borrow money, somebody's loaning it. So then if you can't pay it back, those other people are out all of that money. So right there, you start seeing an issue, right? If this if this bet doesn't pay off, we're going to have some serious issues. What is the pyramid structure? OpenAI is way up at the top. Let me show you this, actually. Let me show you this screen. I want to put things a little bit in perspective. All right. So it basically becomes a rob Peter to pay Paul type thing. These are all the companies that are connected to OpenAI. You've got AI and this right here. Let me just drop the link to this into the chat here so that you can take a look at it. I'll have that up on my website later. So if you go to machinepunkelly.com, you'll be able to find it. You can take a look at it if you want, but AI infrastructure, rob Peter to pay Paul. You've got OpenAI. Oh wait, is it up there? Yeah, okay. OpenAI is at 1.4 trillion in compute commitments. Expects only $20 billion in revenue in 2026. Projecting $14 billion losses in 2026 alone, $115 billion through 2029. So, but connected to that, you've got Oracle. You've heard of them, right? And CoreWeave. Now, CoreWeave, what's happening is these other countries, it's not just the money that they're in debt. It's also these other companies are taking on debt to pay to support them. So they're betting their future on OpenAI succeeding. So Oracle and NVIDIA. You've heard of NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA is like the master chip builder. They're the ones that are building the best chips in the world, right? They've invested $100 billion in OpenAI money. So they've got their own $100 billion in OpenAI investments. What that means is they took out $100 billion in loans to develop these chips for OpenAI that only OpenAI can use. So if OpenAI goes bankrupt, it's not just the money that OpenAI owes and the banks that loan them that money. NVIDIA is going to get clobbered because NVIDIA is then going to be out that $100 billion in investments that nobody else can use the chips that they're making. Okay. And then to make those chips, they need to work with CoreWeave, which is also $53.8 billion in debt. And they're only getting $5 billion in revenue. So if OpenAI goes under, NVIDIA gets clobbered, CoreWeave gets clobbered, and then what we've got SoftBank leading Stargate $500 billion headline, but only, I think they're the ones that are loaning OpenAI all this money. They're going to lose money in 2026. Project taking longer than expected. I think maybe I'll have more on this later to clarify it. I don't remember quite what all that is. But then connected to that, you got Meta and Google are kind of caught up in this because OpenAI is selling all their chips. Oh, well.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Because NVIDIA is selling all their chips to OpenAI. Meta can't buy any of OpenAI's chips, so Meta has to get a different chip from Google. So that's affecting their business. That's affecting their business. So and then you can go another layer deeper, and you've got like Amazon and all the other 7 major tech companies. All of that gets connected to this one business. So this is what I mean when I say it's a human pyramid where you got the fattest guy on top and see, there's OpenAI, the big fat guy, and then everybody else underneath. And as soon as he starts to fall, it's going to be a big, big mess, a big financial collapse. So I'm on AMD, but NVIDIA definitely has a better marketing campaign. Yeah, well, for these particular chips that they use, the AI chips use, there's a specific type of chip. It's called a GPU or something like that. It's not like a regular computer chip. And that they are the state of the art. China's been trying to develop one. If China developed a better chip, that would like destroy the American economy, basically. So everyone, this is the baby oil effect, right? Everybody is leveraged to the hilt. Hyperscalers taking, that's what that one company is. Hyperscalers taking on 1.5 trillion in new debt over the next few years. 121 billion in new debt issued by the big 5 in 2025. That's 4 times normal levels. Then you've got so they insure this debt, right? Corporate bond insurance right now is hitting records, 2.4 trillion projected for 2026. So what happens if those insurance companies have to pay that debt? And I think there's like mandatory payment dates and stuff like that. Like this could all, within a week, you could have like just a massive amount of the economy collapsing because you got these things that come due if certain thresholds aren't met or whatever. So one goes and then that could trigger the next one, and that could trigger the next one, and so on. And then that could trigger a stock market crash. And then everybody's screwed. All your 401ks are just done. So this is what I mean by it's like the human pyramid where everybody's standing on, is that everybody's just slathered up in baby oil. It's not just delicate, it's slippery. One foot slips, one supplier defaults, one revenue miss, and there's no friction. Everyone slides down at once. The whole thing collapses, and you got the biggest, fattest dude at the top. So where's all this money going? $450 billion is in infrastructure, $180 billion on CPUs and accelerators. Where it's not going to non-tech companies. If you look at the whole economy, and like if you look at the economy as a whole, it looks like GDP is doing better than it is. But it's like 96% of our growth. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say it's 96%. Is all AI growth. If you take AI out of the economy, we're shrinking. Non-tech companies are facing 8 to 10% refinancing rates versus 5% before. It's getting harder to invest in non-tech companies, in part because Donald Trump's tariffs are making it so hard to plan, so hard to invest, so hard to know what's going to come tomorrow. Nobody wants to invest in stuff when they aren't able to do a reasonable cost analysis. And when you don't know what things are going to cost the next week, if Donald Trump, somebody looks at him the wrong way, this president of Switzerland speaks to him as a haughty voice, and your business collapses because all of a sudden there's a 39% tariff on Switzerland, and you import stuff that you need from Switzerland. You're like out of watch company or something. Telecom and retail sectors flagged as high risk. 5% default rate predicted by 2026. And smaller firms can't access capital markets. Traditional sectors starving for investment. So this is, like the rest of the economy. It's getting harder to invest in. People don't want to invest in it because there's so much uncertainty. It's harder to get loans for it. The loans you can get are just like any other high risk loan. They cost you more. So that's hurting the economy even more than just it would without Trump's tariffs. It would still be hurting the economy, but with Trump's tariffs, it's making it worse. And now even the mega giants are trapped. Amazon, 17 to 28 billion in negative FCF in 2026. Meta, 96% drop in FCF, negative FCF projected for 2027 and 2028. And Google up to 185 billion CapEx. I don't know what CapEx means. I was rushing through this. But anyway, even Meta, Amazon, and Google are suffering. And I know some people are like, well, good. I'm glad Jeff Bezos. But Jeff Bezos is not the one that's going to be suffering. And what's his name? The asshole at Meta. He's not going to suffer. The CEO at Google that basically decided it's okay to be evil after all. He's not going to suffer. They're not going to suffer. The people that are going to suffer are the people that are just trying to do jobs. And it's not even necessarily the people that work full-time at Google. A lot of people that work at Google are subcontractors because Google's cheap little stunt is to go and subcontract over half their employees so that they can pay them less and not give them benefits. And then they talk about how great their benefits are, but that's because you don't treat half your employees as employees. Google. We decided it's okay to be evil after all. That's Google. Yeah, and I feel that a little personally. Because that happened to me. Got laid off because Google doesn't count me as an employee, even though I made millions of dollars for Google. Can't cut CAPEX. And that's not an exaggeration. The place I was working, they accidentally, this one person that was managed, she might have done it on purpose because she was getting ready to leave, and she accidentally forwarded us all this email that showed what our contract was with Google. And it was like $68 million or something. I don't remember, but it was like in the tens of millions of dollars. There was like 100 people on the team, and nobody at that time was making more than $30 an hour. So we organized and we got some pay raises, but it was still pretty insignificant compared to what we were getting, or what we earned, what we deserved to get. Because if they were paying Accenture $68 million for our business, it was worth more than that to Google. So yeah, you got like the Huey, Dewey, and Louie of evil up there with the fresh cash flow. And I get that some people are like, fine if they go under. But just remember, it's not Huey, Dewey, and Louie that suffer. It's the people that work for Huey, Dewey, and Louie that suffer. It's like just regular middle class people that lose their jobs. And so all of this means Amazon already started laying off people. Don't be shocked if Meta and Google aren't far behind. So what is CapEx? I don't know what CapEx is. Does anybody know what CapEx is? Let me ask. What is CapEx? You got to learn these things, Kelly. Capital expenditure. It's different from lowercase expenditure, I guess. It refers to money spent by a company to acquire, upgrade. Okay. All right. Now I understand. So this CapEx, Google's investing all this money in chips that they're getting to. The Google is developing an alternative chip to NVIDIA, and it's a little bit different, but good enough for Meta to use. So they're spending all this money to develop its stuff because Meta needs it, and Meta can't get NVIDIA's because NVIDIA's is all going to OpenAI. So, bada bing, bada boom. If everything collapses, we are all in trouble. Maybe AMD needs to get on the ball there. What do you think, Skippy? So right now we have a K-shaped economy. I've talked about this before. A K-shaped economy means that you have two different directions for two different groups of people. The wealthy are actually doing better right now. Donald Trump talks about, how the stock market is doing great. And even when it comes to things like taxes, where he wants to shift from progressive income tax to regressive tariff tax, that's going to be more tax burden on the poor and less tax burden on the rich and the upper class. He wants housing prices to go up, even though entry-level home prices are becoming increasingly unaffordable, which means rent is going up. And what's happening is people that have money are buying rental homes, second, third, fourth rental homes, and they're just retiring early and living off of the rent. So if you don't have money to buy a house, you have to loan it. But this person has the money. They don't even have to borrow it, and they can just pay cash for it. They can overpay. They know they're going to make it back in the rent. And if they overpay for it, it just makes the housing prices go up, which means they can raise the rent and they can make more money on all their properties. So right now, we got a K-shaped economy. The wealthy are getting wealthier and the poor are getting poorer. And it's about 80%. To put things in perspective, like 30 years ago, about the top 20% of income earners, what was it? I want to say spent about 40% of consumer spending. Now that's up to the top 10% are spending 50% of consumer spending. And the top 20% account for the top 80%, for about 80% of the consumer spending. So almost all the money that is being spent on niceties as opposed to necessities is all being spent by the wealthy people. The wealthy people have more money. They're the ones going on vacations. They're the ones buying, the nice homes and the vacation homes and all of that kind of stuff. They're just getting richer. Everybody else is getting poorer. And the people that are getting poor, their taxes are going up. Food prices affect poor people more than they do rich people. Do you know that? I don't think Donald Trump knows that. But if you're poor, food is a certain percentage of your income, right? Because you need to eat, and you eat, poorly. It's expensive to be poor. But it's not just that, it's also there's only so much money you spend on food, right? Like if you make $1 million, if you make 10,000, or say you make $20,000 a year, you're going to need to spend at least 25% of your income on food, right? Like $5,000 a month or a year. Like that's living off of $400 a month. That's living off of $100 a week. Hard to imagine doing much worse than that. Hard to live off of less than $100 a week on food. So if it's like 25%, but Donald Trump took away their SNAP benefits too. Now he wants to take away their health care. So all of these things are making it more and more expensive to be poor. But that's okay, because the rich people are getting rich. The Dow's over 50,000, right? Just ask Pam Bondi. And so that's why we call this a K-shaped economy, because you got the two tails in the K. You got the up tail and the down tail. And the down tail is most of us, and the up tail is the top 20% right now. But what's going to happen if the AI bubble bursts? All that wealth that's being accumulated in the 401ks and all those rich people that keep getting richer and richer, they're going to come tumbling down. We're going to go from a K-shaped economy to a backslash-shaped economy. And then it's going to get even worse for the people at the bottom. If it wasn't such widespread fraud, we wouldn't have to take away those things. But honestly, dude, I mean, it's not that widespread, and it's kind of being exaggerated, and it's not. There's three things with this that I would like to address to you, if you could hear me out. Number one, Minnesota's fraud rate is actually much, much lower than the national average. There is a lot of hyperbole getting involved in all of this. Number two, that's like saying that you're going to charge the bank customers more because the bank got robbed. Like that's your logical equivalent there, right? Like the people that are living on, that need Medicaid and that need SNAP benefits and stuff, the ones that are actually like need that to feed their children, they didn't commit the fraud. You want to punish them because somebody else committed fraud. So that's like if somebody came and robbed the bank, and so then I said, as the bank owner, okay, I'm just going to take all the money out of all your accounts and keep that because they robbed your money, not mine. Like, do you see what I'm saying? The people that did the crimes, they've been prosecuted. They're in prison. Why do we need to punish people that didn't do anything wrong by taking away their benefits to pay the bank robbers? Or so that the bank robbers can because of what the bank robbers did. Like the bank robbers should be punished. Nobody's questioning that. But that doesn't mean that the bank customers should also be punished. But that's what this argument that taking away the fraud, the benefits to the people that actually need them is. The third problem with this kind of argument is when you take away their benefits, you're not just hurting them either. If you take away the Medicaid, like in rural Minnesota, like the rural hospitals there are going to shut down, regardless of whether they are, did any fraud or are on Medicaid or whatever. The Medicaid does not pay people. Medicaid pays hospitals and medical providers. So if those medical providers don't get paid, those medical providers have to shut down. A lot of them are already on the verge of bankruptcy. So if you take away the largest part of their income, then you're causing that hospital to shut down. Once that hospital shuts down, it doesn't just shut down for the fraudsters. It doesn't even just shut down for the Medicaid recipients. It shuts down for the whole community. Everybody in that community now does not have a hospital to go to. So if you're having a heart attack, it's going to take you half an hour longer to get to the nearest hospital. Or if you're having a pregnancy issue, it's going to take half an hour longer to get to the nearest hospital. So I'm not being hyperbolic when I say people will literally die because of this. The other thing where it gets felt across the community is in a lot of these rural towns, the hospital is both the largest employer and the largest consumer in that area. So that means all the people that work there are going to lose their jobs. A lot of the people that service the hospital are going to lose their jobs. And a lot of the places where the hospital did consumption are going to lose their jobs. Like they have to buy their food from places, right? They like not everything it comes from out of town. So when you take away the largest consumer and the largest employer out of a town simultaneously, then it has a ripple effect. All the other stores then start, their customers don't have jobs anymore. Their customers aren't able to come in and buy. So then they have to start laying off people. So it has this ripple effect of like destroying an entire town when you close the Medicaid. And why? Not because anybody in that town did anything wrong, but because Donald Trump wants you to believe it's all the Somalis' fault. So, I mean, like, if we're being honest here, and I know that you want to be, you can't just blame this on the fraud. The other point I want to bring up about this is, like I was saying, Minnesota is actually very good at catching fraud, in spite of what you've heard. There's been a lot of numbers that get thrown out and exaggerated, and then they exaggerate those exaggerated numbers become exaggerated. The actual number that's been proven in court is 235 million. That's how much money in Minnesota, actual fraud that's actually been prosecuted. That is a drop in, like they're talking about $9 or $19 billion and stuff. That's just nonsense. That has not been established in court. There's not even any drawn up numbers to where somebody came up with that. That was a throwaway line by a prosecutor in a press conference. That prosecutor, by the way, has resigned. So, and that prosecutor is the one that actually prosecuted the people and proved the 235 million. So that all this just adds to the economic woes we're in for. But in Texas, they've got $4 billion in fraud this year alone. The numbers in Minnesota are over a 7-year period and started under Trump, by the way, and was prosecuted under Biden, by the way. But Texas has over $4 billion in fraud last year. And this just recently came to light. You know what Donald Trump had to say about that? Not a damn thing. So you're, and just my opinion, I'm not arguing. I know in life there's always somebody trying to get one over on somebody else. Yeah, but no, the reason this is happening is Donald Trump is getting one over on people that are willing to buy this swill. I would prosecute the people that did it. So if you're listening on the podcast, how would you handle these kinds of things, this fraud and all this? I would prosecute the people that did it. I would not punish the people that didn't. I would like to ask you, do you think it's fair to punish people that didn't do anything wrong because somebody else did something wrong? Do you think that's a fair system? there's always room for improvement on these kinds of things, but I don't know what else. Okay, so I would like to talk about seniors and Social Security issues. That's actually, you know what, Silver, I'm gonna try and do something about that next week. I do think that we need to address Social Security issues, but I don't think we probably have the same idea. I think we need to raise the max amount of money to that you have to pay in Social Security per year. I think we could easily raise the extra money for Social Security instead of before we start making people that don't have any give up part of it. Right, exactly, Kitty. Why? Because Trump is a series of like she's got like comic book cursing there. Do hospitals pay taxes to community? Do hospitals pay taxes to the community? I don't know. I mean, it depends on what you mean. I think that community gets money from taxes from the hospital either directly or indirectly. At the very least, indirectly, because it's the largest employer. So then those people that buy things pay sales taxes. They pay property taxes, right? So part of their income, which the hospital provides, ends up getting paid in taxes. So if the hospital goes under, that community is going to lose tax money. I don't think that they're tax free, but I'm not positive on that. I've never looked at it. So it's an interesting question. I never thought about it. Let me. Are hospitals tax exempt? I'll ask Claude what he thinks. Yes, many hospitals are tax exempt, but not all. So typically, nonprofit hospitals typically qualify for tax exempt status. They don't pay federal income taxes. They don't pay state income taxes. They don't pay property taxes, and they don't pay sales taxes. They have to be operating for charitable purposes, providing community benefit, emergency care, charity care, community health programs, revising or investing any profits back into okay. The most many rural hospitals are technically nonprofit and tax exempt, but they face unique financial pressures. Low patient volumes make it harder to generate revenue. Lower reimbursement rates from Medicare and Medicaid, which serves a higher percentage of rural populations. Higher uninsured rates in rural areas, meaning more uncompensated cases. And difficulty attracting specialists and staffs leads to higher labor costs. Aging infrastructure and equipment. There's the main. Despite tax exempt status, many rural hospitals operate on razor thin margins at a loss, have limited financial reserves to weather downturns. Okay, so they are tax exempt, but they still struggle financially. I think that's the gist of it. Does that answer your question? How would you be able to punish the people that did it and not affect any of the innocent? By sending them to jail, like by prosecuting them. The people that did it were prosecuted and in jail now. Like, do you know that? And they weren't all Somalis, by the way. See if I can find this. No, that's not the one. All right. I don't know where that image that I made a meme with Renee, or not Renee, the woman that was the ringleader was a Minnesota. She was a white woman. She's in jail, and you're not going to get the money back. Like, it's not coming back. It's not coming back if you take away people's Medicaid either. It's gone. They stole it. They spent it. You can recover whatever you can out of their bank accounts and stuff, but it's gone. It's just sunk cost. But just taking away other people's health care doesn't help. Doesn't make anything better to take health care away from poor people, poor children. Forcing Minnesota hospitals to close isn't going to help anybody. I'm talking about the fraud that goes. I would say in general. What do you? I mean, if you're taking away, if you're like, first of all, what Trump is doing, he's not doing it across the country in general. He's only doing it in blue states. And number two, what I'm talking about doesn't change in general either. You don't recover things by taking away benefits, and you don't do justice by taking away benefits. Yeah, like if somebody wrongs party A, and so then you know party B wrongs party A, so then you say party C must suffer. That doesn't make anything better for party A. It just makes another group of people miserable. Okay, SNAP benefit fraud is, prosecute it. Medicare fraud, prosecute it. I will say that it is nowhere near as significant as Trump and people in his administration have tried to make it sound. It's actually, they crack it, they prosecute it, they punish it. There are people in jail right now for Medicare and Medicaid fraud and SNAP benefit fraud and all those kinds of fraud. It's not just like, I don't understand why you're asking or what the question actually is. My answer to the question is fraudsters should be punished and prosecuted. But that does not mean that you should take away the benefits that they stole. It's just a different person stealing it at that point. Yeah, to fix it, you make fraud harder. You don't make Medicaid harder. You don't do it by having the guy that's in charge of the FBI go and party with the Olympic team at the in Europe. You do it by actually trying to crack down on fraud. But like I said, it's already very low. The fraud rates are actually really low. It's already kind of being taken care of. You're asking me how to solve the problem with the elephants in my refrigerator. And there aren't any elephants in my refrigerator, so it's not a problem I really need to solve. We don't have fraud going on all the time in this country. That's what I'm trying to say. You have been sold a bill of goods that there is this massive fraud issue in the country. There's actually not. The fraud is not the issue you have been told. And what fraud is there is getting prosecuted. All these, for an example, all these people in Minnesota are being prosecuted. The fraudsters in Texas are being prosecuted. There was a big nationwide thing, and they're prosecuting the people that committed the fraud. That's how you address it. You prosecute the people that do it. But it hasn't been going on on a massive scale for years. It just hasn't been. That is something that the Trump administration and Republicans have been telling you for years. That is a lie. It's just a lie. It's just not true. No, see, yes, there is billions. Well, there's billions out of how many trillions? it's like 1-2% tops. And you need to go continue to prosecute it. That doesn't mean you need to take it away from people that aren't doing anything wrong. Okay, you don't get it. You're asking me how I would fix a non-existent problem. You don't fix non-existent problems. You spend your time and energy fixing actual real problems. Right now, the existing structure we have to address fraud is doing so sufficiently. They've tried doing things like drug testing, like, right? That was one of the things where they tried to say, oh, all these people are, just sitting around collecting money and they're all using it to spend money on drugs. And so then they started doing all these drug things. Oh, you got to come and do this drug testing. And I found out, one, nobody was doing that. It just wasn't happening. At least not on anything remotely close to the scale that they were trying to peddle. And they ended up losing more money just running the testing programs than the money that was being taken by fraud. You had these kind of work programs. We're just trying to, saying, okay, well, you have to do these work requirements and stuff like that. And they ended up being a failure, and they ended up costing more money than saving. So that's the problem when you go and you spend all this money solving fake problems that are all just seated in the idea that poor people are the real reason that the country is bad off. And it's just so easy to blame all the problems in the country on all this money that we're spending on poor people. That's not the problem. Elon Musk has gotten more money from the government than any man in the history of the country. He's the problem. People like him are the problem. The people that are making tens of billions of dollars off of the government are the ones that are the problem. It's not some guy that sold his food stamps that's the reason you're poor. It's the guy that built the country for $38 billion. I'm not saying I'm correct on everything that I might think, but I do think the things I think because I have done research and I have substantive reasons behind it. I mean, and we can get into this. I don't want to go into all that again, but yes, we can all have an opinion, but your opinion is only worth the weight of the substance behind it. Let's talk about this a little bit. Let's look at okay. Let's look at what the actual facts are. Okay. Can you agree that if I show you the facts that you will accept the facts? I would love to have a fact-based conversation where somebody could just say, you know what? I think we should have facts. Okay, so I'm going to show you some stuff, and I hope you can accept what the facts are. Okay. Okay, the Medicaid fraud rate is difficult to pin down because there's no single universally agreed upon figure. And I want to talk about there's two types of Medicaid fraud. There's provider fraud and there's user fraud. All right. Provider fraud is when you have providers do things to make money off of the government paychecks. User fraud is an entirely different thing. Users don't really have Medicaid fraud because users don't get paychecks. Users get health care. If you have Medicaid, you don't get anything. You go to the hospital and with a broken leg and they fix your leg and the Medicaid pays the hospital bill. That's what Medicaid is. Medicaid does not pay you for breaking your leg. It pays the hospital for fixing your leg. So user fraud is really, really rare because you can't really make money off of Medicaid fraud. The provider fraud is where there's an issue, and that's where you crack things on. But you don't punish the users because of what the providers did. The Medicaid fraud rate is difficult to pin down because there's no single universally agreed upon figure. Here's what we know. Official estimates, CMS Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Fraud Services don't publish a single fraud rate, but they track payment errors, which include fraud, waste, and abuse. But not every payment error is fraud, waste, and abuse. And fraud, waste, and abuse is not all fraud, because there's obviously waste in there too, which, I don't know, and abuse. I don't know if you want to say that fraud and abuse are both the things, but historically improper payment rates for Medicaid have ranged from 5 to 10% in recent years, though this varies significantly by state. For Minnesota, it was 2.6%, I think. Actually below the national average. Some estimates suggest fraud specifically account for 3 to 5% of total Medicaid spending. The complexity, fraud versus waste versus abuse, are often lumped together. Fraud is intentional deception, billing for services not rendered, kickbacks. I think that is what you're talking about, right? Waste, inefficiency, or unnecessary services, not necessarily intentional. So, the doctor is like, I don't know if I need this x-ray or not. I'm going to take this x-ray, and then Medicaid says you didn't need to take that x-ray. But the doctor actually, in good faith, thought he did. That could be classified as waste. Abuse, billing practices that aren't fraudulent but violate program rules. The distinction matters because improper payment rates are much higher than confirmed fraud. So if you're looking at that 5 to 10% and you're like, see, but fraud is only a part of that 5 to 10%. The distinction okay. Why it's hard to measure. Many cases go undetected. State Medicaid programs vary widely in their audit capabilities, retrospective detection versus real-time fraud prevention. The definitional differences across agencies and states, limited resources for investigation. And every state has their own, the way that Medicaid is done, it's administered by the state, paid for by the government. It's one of those federalism things. The other thing I'd like to point out is this is not distinguishing between the user fraud and the provider fraud, but it's got to be mostly on the provider fraud, right? Because of its intentional deception, billing for services not rendered, kickbacks. When you think of Medicaid fraud, you should not be thinking these people that are on Medicaid and they shouldn't be on Medicaid and they're just milking the system for Medicaid. Like when they were talking about these kids that just stay in their mom's basement and play video games all day. Well, the kids that are staying in their mom's basement and playing video games all day, they're not actually using Medicaid. They even if they're on it, they're not using it. They're not, they're healthy. They're like, oh, you're all these healthy working adults that aren't on it. If they're healthy, they're not using it. That's because they're healthy. The whole point of Medicaid is you have something when you're not healthy. Why it's hard to measure. Many cases go undetected. Or so we already read that. Notable areas of concern. Provider fraud. That's where the real gist is. Unnecessary procedures. Upcoding, billing for services. So let me ask. What percent of fraud is provider fraud dominates significantly. Estimated provider fraud accounts for roughly 80 to 90% of total Medicaid fraud. Beneficiary fraud represents only 10 to 20%. So I don't know if that answers your question, but this idea Like, so if you were to take the 3 to 5%, and then you take 20% of 3 to 5%, because you got the 3 to 5% is total fraud, right? And then at most, you've got 20% of that 5%. So at most, and this is very, very at most, 1% of the money that goes to Medicaid is actually user end fraud. That's why I'm saying that is not something you really need to concern yourself with. It's actually probably closer to like tenths of a percentage point. You don't have research too. You don't have your own research. Like, what do you mean we have research too? Who is we and what research? Like the numbers don't change because somebody else published a different, like, that's just like, there is no we have research too. I'm pointing to the research, the consensus. It's a sliver of Medicaid spending is going to users. No, I'm not saying your opinions are wrong and mine are right. I am saying that the facts don't change because you have a different opinion. I'm saying that I base my opinion on the facts. I don't base my facts on what my opinion is. I know you're telling me what to think, but I am trying to tell you what the truth is. I'm trying to tell you what the facts are. Can you base your thinking on the facts instead of what facts you choose to hear based on your thinking? It comes from the taxpayers. The taxpayers, by the way, that are also getting deprived of their Medicaid. Do you think that the Medicaid, like what I'm talking about Minnesota for, in case you haven't heard, is Medicaid is frozen in Minnesota now, across the state, because of this made up fraud stuff. And the people that aren't getting that Medicaid paid their taxes. No, I'm right. I'm wrong once a year on purpose, just so I can keep from getting too vain. But I'm not wrong about this. Just, that's not an argument, buddy. Just saying you're not wrong all the time. Sometimes people ask me, why do you always have to be right? And I don't have to be right. I just am. You're a clown. Yeah, well, at least I know how to use an apostrophe. All right. Do you have your feet on the ground? No, I have my feet on a recliner stool right now. All right, so let's go back to the slide deck. All right. Okay, show me the internet rules about typing etiquette. I'm just telling you, my rule on my channel, I don't care what your grammar is, but if you're going to say you're an idiot or you're a clown or you're going to insult my intelligence in some way, you best do it grammatically correct, or I will mock you for it. If you told me you're a clown and spelled your correctly, you can't even get an apostrophe right, too bad. You get clowned for being a clown by saying you're a clown. All right, so back to the K-shaped economy and the backslash economy. Because what we're aiming for is a backslash economy. All that stuff I was just talking about remains true. All those hospitals that go under are going to go under. It's going to drag all of these businesses under. We are headed for an economic collapse. So the top is going to collapse and the bottom is going to collapse. They're going to collapse at different speeds, but we are talking, except for the Epstein class, we're all going to be poor. I don't want to have this happen, but it's going to happen. Unless, OpenAI miraculously pulls off this money that it's supposed to make. But that's it's getting a lot, and Trump's tariffs and everything else that's happening is feeding into this bubble. It's like just blowing up the balloon even harder and harder and harder, knowing it's eventually going to pop. Right now, the S&P 500 is on pace for the worst month since March 2025, back when, Liberation Day thing was a thing. Lower income households are facing much higher inflation on essentials. When we talk about inflation, we always talk about it as a standalone number, but all inflation is not created equal. And if you look at things in general, the more you need something, the more of the price of it is going up. Like that's just, and if you don't, if it's not a necessity, the price of it is going down in a lot of ways because supply and demand and the way that works, right? So when the price of the things that poor people need goes up, they have less money to spend on the niceties, on the things they want. The things they need go up. The things they want, they can't afford, so they don't buy them. Since the poor people aren't buying the things that they want, people that have the money to buy those things, they see the prices coming down because the demand on the wants actually goes down because the people can't afford to buy them anymore. So demand goes down, that causes the price to go down. So that makes it easier for the rich people to afford the nice things and the wants, while the poor people can't afford to pay for the needs. That's what's happening right now. Real wage stagnant while nominal costs climb, and especially with the tariffs, that's exaggerated. You look at the job adjustment numbers, we're not doing well. I think I want to, if you look at the 5 years of Trump's presidency combined, I think we are actually at a net negative total job growth under Donald Trump was president. When AI capex disappoints, if AI capex disappoints, which it probably will, you're going to have all these tech layoffs. Like I was saying, Amazon's going to be laying off money and people, and Google's going to be laying off people, and Facebook is going to be laying off people, and OpenAI is going to be, all these companies are going to be laying off people, and all of that's going to have a ripple effect too, because once people start losing their jobs, the community starts shutting down. You get these where I used to work at, there was a building over in Austin. If you live in Austin, it's the one on Palmer where the Google shops and all of that are. There's all this strip mall industry around there, with food, with restaurants, from fast food to nice restaurants and everything, where people go and they eat during their lunch. And you've got, like, I don't know, must be at least 10,000 people that work in that compound. And so, during the shutdown, those businesses suffered. If all those businesses start, or if all of those tech businesses start doing massive layoffs, you're going to see a lot of those local businesses in Austin shut down. And then there's these apartment rentals and townhouse rentals and stuff like that in the same area, because people want to be able to walk to work. Those are going to start going under. Payment due, the $300 billion crunch. This is what I was thinking of. OpenAI's debt is coming due. They have contractors with suppliers starting to come due now. $130 billion shortfall over the next 2 years. Total payment demands could reach $300 billion through 2030. And this is like, these payment demands are like contracted in, and if they don't make the payment, then the whole thing comes due at once. So if that happens, then, and they default on that loan, then then OpenAI could collapse. And that's when the fat person at the top of the human pyramid starts slipping on the slippery shoulders of the people holding him up. And then the whole thing comes down, and then all you've got is a bunch of broken bodies. So this is the squeeze play. You can't generate enough revenue fast enough. Right now, AI is just not generating the kind of revenue that everybody thought it was going to generate. Your little $20 a month for Claude is not doing it. It can't reduce spending because they have to keep getting more investments. Because if they keep getting more investments, that's the only way they get revenue. It's like a Ponzi scheme or something. So it's just compounding. Systemic risk. The banking. Oh, and then so this is everybody that borrows money borrows it from somebody, right? You don't have all of this money. You don't have like literally hundreds of $billion. Actually, I think it's about $1.5 trillion right now that has been borrowed. You don't have that much money being borrowed without affecting the banking industry if all those things start triggering. You have all these insurance companies that are leveraged out to the hilt. It's like once the AI goes down, it could bring down the banking industry with it. It could bring down the insurance industry with it. You could just like the devastation to the economy is like really hard to fathom what it could end up doing. Banks, pension funds, insurance companies, hedge funds, leveraged on infrastructure loans, $38 billion Oracle loan. All these companies just could collapse. And then you've got one major supplier defaults, banks take the losses, credit marks sees it up, that cascades through the entire system. You end up having a serious catastrophe on your hands. So let me see if I got some new comments. Can you change your show name to The World as We Know It, according to Kelly? It's not really according to me, though. I tend to try to assimilate stuff before. Like, I want you to know, Silver, I do not just make this stuff up. I do. Like, where do you think? Like, I made this slideshow. I like research stuff. I'm not just pulling things out of my butt. I know that's what you expect from right-wing podcasters. They just make things up. But I'm not making things up. And like I showed you, I'm always willing to research and challenge and show you. And if you have a different AI that you prefer, different, like if you want me to bring something up, I'm happy to bring it up. I'm not above having a fact-based conversation, but you're not always right is not a factual conversation. I'm not saying that means I'm always right. I'm just saying that is a given. Of course, I'm not always right, but that doesn't mean I'm always wrong. And this is, I'm glad I'm giving you nightmares, actually. No offense. I hope not literal. I hope you can sleep at night. But I do think you should be concerned. I think we should all be concerned about the pending economic collapse. If this AI bubble goes, I talked about it at the beginning. When before the internet bubble burst, there were people yelling about it. Before the housing bubble burst, there were people yelling about it. Listen to me now. If the AI bubble bursts, we are fornicated. We are fornicated with a capital FORNICATED. If OpenAI's revenue projections miss, you get Oracle Weave debt becomes toxic, credit downgrade. Oh, then you get the credit downgrades, right? Which means that's going to cause financing costs to go up. NVIDIA will lose massive customer and growth narrative, stock crashes. So then NVIDIA stock goes down. NVIDIA is also going to be clobbered by OpenAI not being able to pay for the chips that they just used, or that they were building just for OpenAI. Hyperscalers cut capex, can't sustain negative FCF, massive layoffs. So then that's like the people that make the hyperscalers help make I think that the hyperscalers go into the chips, and the chips go into the AI. The market react. So once, once OpenAI starts going under, right, the whole market is going to collapse. Tech stocks go down from 20 to 30%, overlaid on speculative returns. And I understand this: if you take those 7 companies out of the stock market, the rest of the stock market is actually down since 2025 or 2024. And the rest of the stock market is going down. Right now, AI is the only thing making any kind of illusion that the economy is doing well. All that talk about 50,000, all based on AI and tech industry growth. It's not like auto industry or whatever. It's not the rest of it. Then you're going to have the banking industry, banking sector problems ripple through pension funds, insurance. So that's 2008 all over again. GDP growth evaporates, all that capex spending stops counting. And then on top of that, you've got the austerity spending. You got like government spending freezes and over stupid racist stuff by Donald Trump. You get the immigration, the mass deportation, which is going to shut down farms and shut down factories and shut down processing plants, meat processing plants, all of these things combined. Then the tariffs. All of this, it's like if somebody wanted to fornicate the economy up as much as humanly possible, they would do exactly what Donald Trump is doing. The bottom line, $2 trillion in debt financing. Again, that's, I think the GDP is around 28 trillion. I don't remember if it's 28 trillion or 32 trillion. Let me ask Claude. Okay. Oh, I meant how much? $31.5 trillion. So 2 trillion is like 1.5% of that. That's a lot. So you've got 2 trillion in debt financing and AI infrastructure, but out with speculative returns and almost no revenue. Almost no revenue at all. This is revenue has to scale like 70 times what it is right now before OpenAI starts generating a profit. That's how risky this is. If you have to spend $70 to make $1, you are not running a good business model. Normal GDP, and that's the entire business model for the entire country right now. National GDP inflated by the spending, real economy weak, regular workers are getting squeezed. When it breaks, and it will, the collapse is going to be sharp. This is the capital misallocation at a scale that is the story. This is what I am worried about. Excuse me if I sound like a paranoid, frantic lunatic, but there is a definitely real reason to be scared of what's going on with this economy. And, like we can all just listen to Donald Trump's delusional ramblings, but that doesn't change anything. My faith is in God, not man. Well, I think faith, there's a story for you. There's this is the story about faith that I like. Because I don't know if you know this, like people assume you're a liberal, you hate God or something. I was a minister for 15 years, and I love this story. There was a girl in China. There was a drought going on, and she was praying every day for like a month. She was praying every day. God, make it rain on this date, this Saturday, a month out. And so every day she would pray for like an hour on her knees, begging God, let it pray or let it rain on this day, end this drought, end this drought. And so the day finally came. And she spent the whole day on her knee just praying, God, let it rain, let it rain. And it never rained. And so her parents were mocking her the next day. And they said, your God doesn't answer prayers. You prayed all day and he never answered your prayer. And she says, but he did answer my prayer. His answer was no. And that is what faith is. Faith is not just assuming that God is going to do what you ask him. God is not our servant. Faith is trusting that what God did is what God meant. It's accepting God's answer. It's not telling him to answer to you. Majority of the profits of the actual money is going to manufacturers of these chips, not made of. A lot of it is yep. And where is that? I think we only had one mention of that particular country in the entire State of the Union. It's concerning, no xenophobia, of course, the fact that only the building process is making. Oh, by the way, hi Dusty, how you doing today, bud? The fact that only the building process is making money for the local economy is concerning, as they leave almost no jobs and poison the air around it. Korea and China are more happy about AI because they made the majority of the chips. I will say this about China. China's doing a lot more for air quality than we are right now. They're doing a lot more for clean energy than we are right now. I think they developed more clean energy last year than we have developed, period. So please, no, stop asking Claude. He's only good for RP. Well, it's easy for this venue because it's just easier to like go, like it's easier than Googling something. And I find Claude is pretty consistent. Like I'll go through and I'll check the source material. The real key, like I did this for a living for a while. You know, like I would evaluate these kinds of answers and do like a quality, like especially for politically sensitive things. And that was one of the main things we had to do is go through and check not just whether it was answering things with the appropriate amount of sensitivity, but like the factual basis. So we'd have to go through and like, you know, what was the, not just whether or not the source material said what they said it was, which sometimes it wouldn't be, but also things like, you know, we had a grading system for how credible that was. Now, this is one thing that you should be concerned about when it comes to any AI, is that we, one of the higher quality sources, this was a few years ago when the CDC still mattered, before they started, you know, putting up fake information and stuff, that one of the more the AIs are trained to give more credit to official government numbers, which is why nowadays you see a lot of AIs will give you the fake Trump numbers as though they're actually reliable when they're not. That's where you start having some issues. So I always check the source data. Except like not on this show because I just don't have time for that. But how long has this stream been on? About an hour and a half. Hi, Brett. How you doing? If I spent, it wouldn't be such an accessible number in news that had a soft border for correctness. I think the reason it's in the news, I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, is that Claude is actually one of the better AIs. It's the one that the DoD uses, and it uses it because it's good. But the reason I use AI is I went through and Anthropic is the only AI that's owned by somebody that's a liberal. How long has the stream been on? An hour and a half. All right, but I'll still poke you every time you use Claude. I like the way you spell it, Claude. I think it's a speech to text thing, but it's funny, Claude. One time my cat stepped on my remote and he paused the TV. I'm doing pretty good despite everything. Crazy world we live in. China is doing more for the environment. Yeah. Well, you don't have to live in fear, but live in reality. I mean, it's funny that because so much of the Republican premise right now is that, oh, the illegal immigrants are coming to get you, and you're going to die at the hands of the illegals, and the illegals are stealing the vote. Like, the entire MAGA world is just, and I know you say you're not a MAGA, but I mean, if you don't want to live in fear, then get rid of Trump. Nobody has ever tried to stir up fear as much and fearmonger as much as Donald Trump does. Ironic, the AI is shunned by MAGA at the moment because it doesn't give the answers they want. But as Trump puts out fake numbers, AI will become their beacon of truth. I know, that's why you always got to check the source material. I find it's good for aggregating information, but you still have to. I always say AI is like, it's a good tool, but it's not a good replacement. I like to compare AI to a sous chef. Like, you're the chef, like whatever goes out, whatever seasoning, you're the one that goes through and you taste everything and you make sure everything is right before it goes out to your customers. But your customers don't care who chopped the carrots. Like let the AI do the legwork. It can save a lot of time, but make sure that what you send out isn't going to poison your customers. I know you said you're not. I seem to remember a certain amount of fear all along. Overall, I remember, like, going back, like in my lifetime, I would just say that the Democrats have basically sold hope, and the Republicans have basically sold fear. What was I think Clinton's thing was government you can believe in. And then, Barack Obama's thing was hope, right? And Ronald Reagan was, the Russians are going to conquer us. And then George Bush made us afraid of the Muslims and the terrorists. Now Donald Trump is making us afraid of the foreign invaders and the transgender people and the liberals and basically everybody. Yeah, it scrapes the dirty internet for the info. Depending on its training program, it's taught to a certain degree to prioritize certain things over like sources over others. You would be shocked how much some of these AIs use Quora, is it called? Quora? Oh man, I used to like have to look at some of these dumbass Quora answers for things. It would like or like Reddit posts. Like it would sit there and it would just use some random dude on Reddit's post as evidence. So you had to train it to like recognize what a legitimate source is and just what a random dude's opinion is. Okay. I believe in government. I think if you lived in a world without government, you would very much want one. Without government, you would have all kinds of problems. Who would build the roads? It's exhausting though to go 5 tiers deep to get AI to actually tell that reality. Yeah. I haven't had that many issues with Claude doing that. I do push back. It helps if you already have some working knowledge on it. On the subject you're doing, because you can kind of like go, wait, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, everything that AI puts out, you gotta at least review it. And it's easier than like just going through and reading through 400 documents by yourself. Like one thing one way I try to do things is I'll ask Claude, what do you think about this? Right. And then I'll say source it. And then I'll look at like if it's got a study of some sort. This is how I learned a lot about the whole topic of gender dysphoria and being trans and all of that kind of stuff. Is I found some studies, and then I would find a study that I thought was interesting, and I would ask Claude, can you summarize this study for me? So rather than it's scouring the internet, it's synthesizing a particular study and then you can go back and you can confirm what it says. There's ways that you can use AI to learn. And that's primarily what I want to do. And then as I'm doing that, I'm also having it compile all this information for me so that then I can have it help me generate those slideshows that I do and stuff. Like you just got to learn to work with it. That's all. Canada deemed our science subpar. Well, I can't blame them right now. Oh, did you hear about RFK Jr.'s solution to this is great. RFK Jr. found out the solution to beef prices. It's eat liver, which technically is beef, right? But yeah. He said this is such insight from a man who has a roadkill freezer in his house. He said that if you eat inexpensive things, they are cheaper. Inexpensive things are cheaper. Now, that's the kind of mind we have. Why can't Canada respect that? That's the kind of man we have overseeing our science right now. A man that says inexpensive things are cheaper. I love watching every career path being destroyed or deemed illegitimate as I try to make a career as a Z late millennial. I hear you, Dusty. That's all right. Once civilization starts collapsing because of fake climate change conquering us, like that's the other thing, the climate change. Oh my goodness. It's just, and it's not even like it's debatable or something. Climate change is real. It's like arguing if circles are round. But anyway, my point is 20, 30 years, careers will be, like they won't matter anymore anyway. Because you're just going to be sitting there rubbing sticks together, trying to get a fire going so that you can roast the mutated bear you just killed in the woods. Mecha Hitler, I mean, Grok and Gemini love to regurgitate Trump mess. Yeah, Grok is the worst. Although with Grok, Gemini is the one I was training, by the way. The Gemini is the one I was training. Grok, public Grok and private Grok are a little different. And so one time I did this thing. I asked public Grok a question, and then public Grok gave me the mega answer, right? And so then I asked private Grok, I said, what would you do if somebody told you this? And then so private Grok responded to public Grok and said, that's silly and blah, 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 and gave me, like the answer to how he would respond to public Grok. So then I cut and pasted the private Grok answer into public Grok, and I went like 10 messages long from both sides, and public Grok was getting owned by private Grok through the whole conversation. It was pretty hilarious. RFK swims in sewage canals and eats polluted organs. That makes sense. He saws the head off of whales and drives them home while his children wear garbage bags on their head. There's a bear in the trunk, and that's just the beginning. There seems like a country song should be involved in there. I went to the woods and I accidentally killed me a bear. So I put him in the trunk and drove somewhere. Trump should know climate change is real. Lots of places in Florida have sidewalks that are partially under water. Run out of characters. And somehow we'd still have a corrupt government after nuclear fallout. Oh, and indubitably. Probably Stephen Miller will be champion of the world and devourer of throats. Like somehow Stephen Miller and the cockroaches will still be alive. Trump is bad. I mean, it's yeah. You should have Gort private and public use text to speech and have them argue with each other. Oh, wow. You know what I should do? I should do something like that and then put the whole thing in my make an explainer video or something. Make a YouTube video where they're arguing with each other. You don't know he's bad because I told you over and over again. I'm just telling you what he did. That I like he's not bad because I said so. I could never have existed and he would be just as bad as he is. If you don't know he's bad on your own, then thanks for watching. Hopefully you're learning something. But yeah, he's a legitimately bad person. I can drop like I have reasons for what I say. And I'm not gonna like back down on what I say just because you feel like what I'm saying is like I'm not allowed to criticize him or something. But let me pull this up. Like that, huh? It's not on that one. Okay. All right, sorry. I'm gonna have to try this way. Thought I had it. Oh, by the way, let me pop this up there while I'm doing that. So that is I'm selling, these are on my store, my pun store. If you're planning to go on to the No Kings parade, These are I Am Not a Terrorist Antifa t-shirts. And it's got the little No Kings logo on the side there. And I dropped a link in the chat to it. I'll drop a link in the description too. If you want to pick up one of these shirts, then I'm basically selling them at cost. But if you want to pick up one of these shirts, go ahead. Wear it to the parade. I like it. A friend of the program named Antifa, or what is it? I can't think of his name right now. Hang on a second. Awkward is his name. AWKORD. He's a rapper. He designed this, and I really love the design he made. So anyway, if you want to pick up an Antifa t-shirt. I know I don't know why it's an arm wrestling competition, Silver. It's just it's not about who wins. It's just trying to find truth together. I used to like the guy, and ashamed to admit that I used to laugh at some of the things he would say. Oh, you're talking about? I'm not really, actually, I have not said that much about Trump at all here. All I'm saying is that all I said negative about Trump today is that his tariffs are exacerbating, like some of his policies are exacerbating things. AI thing is not actually either his fault or Biden's fault. It's not really any president's fault. It's just, but it's being exacerbated. It started under Biden, but not because of Biden. But the tariffs are making things worse. Everybody's putting all this money into AI because they all want to be ahead of at the beginning of the next thing. And so they're all funneling money into there, which may, and with the tariffs and everything, they don't want to invest money there, which means they're just investing more of their money into AI. It's the only safe place to invest right now, which is just making the bubble or the balloon blow up faster. So some of that is on Trump, but it's not all Trump's fault. But I'm not gonna, like, am I supposed to not say negative things? I'm not saying negative things about Trump. I'm saying things that are true about Trump that just happen to be negative. Like, he wants to conquer Cuba now. Or, I'm sorry, wants to have a friendly takeover of Cuba. What positive spin am I supposed to put on that? Oh, yay, we're going to absorb another territory. Go imperialism. Like, I don't know what positive thing I'm supposed to be saying that I'm not saying. Anyway, this is this is an article that I wrote today. Which I'll drop the link to this but right here. I was thinking about this is an actual criticism of Trump. But I was thinking about his whole, stand if you agree that the purpose of the government is to defend the citizens of the United States and not illegal aliens. And that's actually not the purpose of the government. It's not to defend the United States citizens. It's not to defend illegal aliens. It's neither one of those things. He just makes it a choice between things. You want to know what the purpose of the government is? It is we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, do ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America. That's the purpose of the Constitution. It's right there in the preamble. It's literally the founding fathers saying, this is what we think government should do. So, like, you know, even if you say, I don't believe in government, which of those things do you not agree with? That doesn't say anything about an us or a them. It doesn't carve out two types of people. When they wrote this, there wasn't even any such thing as illegal aliens. There was no legal immigration process. If you came over here, you were an immigrant. That's it. If you were over here when the Declaration of Independence, or when the Constitution was ratified, you were a citizen. If you came over afterwards, you could nationalize. That is it. There were no green cards. There was no legal immigrants. There was no illegal immigrants. There were only immigrants. There were only aliens at the time. And aliens could stay as long as they want. And if they stayed long enough, they could become citizens. It wasn't a competition. It wasn't a war between the two. That's part of ensuring domestic tranquility. Do you think Donald Trump ensures domestic tranquility? Do you think he establishes justice while he's denying people their Fourth Amendment rights? So anyway, I went through and cited this is what these things are: ensure domestic, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty. He has steadfastly not done any of those things and done the opposite, in fact. But this is where I found it interesting. There's only two places where the word protect is used in the Constitution. One is used in conjunction with the presidential oath, where it says to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. What the President of the United States is supposed to protect is not the American citizens, but the Constitution. That is literally what he took an oath to protect. The other thing mention of protection is states shall be protected against invasion. And then that word was not like the hyperbolic usage of foreign invasion or of aliens invading. That's not what they meant. They meant like an actual foreign army coming over and invading. They didn't mean Mexicans coming up over the border. Because again, there was no such thing as illegal immigration. And I mean, come on, like just, they meant invasion by invasion. So don't even go down that hole. But so then I went through and I just started listing. What are the ways that Donald Trump is violating his oath of office to protect the Constitution? And he's violated the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th Amendments. He has violated Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. He's trying to violate the 15th, 16th, 18th, 22nd, 24th, and 26th Amendments. Every single amendment it is possible to violate, he either has violated or is trying to violate. Every single article he has violated. There are over 200 lawsuits he has already lost for violating the Constitution. He is doing the opposite, the exact polar opposite of protecting the Constitution. Every day under Donald Trump is an assault on the Constitution. So if you want to read why I think that Donald Trump is bad, if you want the substance behind my argument there, I don't remember if I, there's the article. You can read the article, Silver. But that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. I'm allowed an opinion too. Just my opinion has substance. If you want to debate with me on the substance, not just I have an opinion. And his DOJ. Okay. Okay, so I have little faith that we'll be able to vote come November. Oh, did you hear about this? Another one. There is apparently some sort of draft of an executive order being floated about that he is going to declare a national emergency and take over the elections because China stole the 2020 election. He's going to use the 2020 election to take over when he was president, by the way. Why did he let China interfere with our election? Why did he let him steal the election? He was president. MAGA seemed to forget who was president in 2020. Anyway, he's literally trying to figure out a way to prevent the elections in 2026 because he knows he's going to lose Congress. I have little faith that we will be able to vote come November. He's already let it slip that if they win, it'll be at least 50 years. And I quote, vote for me. Yeah, vote for me and you'll never have to vote again. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm just telling you what the facts are. And his DOJ is deleting evidence off the website, even though the photos of Lutnick and others are already saved all over the internet. Interviewing the Clintons, meanwhile, Don and Melania were immediately close. Yes, were intimately close to Epstein. It's just nuts. And James Comer, well, Donald Trump already said he didn't do anything. I didn't see you when Anthony was here, Brett. Oh, dude, but that was when there was some weird captioning. Check out, if you haven't watched it, there was a guy named Anthony, and the interview with him was about an hour. He's might have more knowledge of the Epstein files than any living human being. he does. I mean, like I basically just pushed him, and then he just talked for an hour, just without repeating himself. He really, really knows all of this stuff, but he was talking about the connections between, actually, I think one of an Epstein surrogate, I don't know what to call him, an Epstein connection, actually introduced Melania to Don. Like there wouldn't be a Melania in Donald Trump's life if it weren't for Jeffrey Epstein. But yeah, it's all about Hillary Clinton. They're going to take a 10-second out of context video clips for the next 3 years to sell them to Fox at a profit and then spin doctor them. Yeah, that's what they do, and it doesn't even matter. The rest will still be available, and people will be able to, like when they used the police officers opening the doors for the people on January 6th, somehow that meant none of the other stuff happened. Like none of the other stuff happened because that happened. You know, like 2 hours into it, they just gave up. I can still see your retracting messages. What day do you think they'll talk about? Sometime next week. I'd like to take a look at that. I do like talking about policy issues more than I like talking about Trump. I'm not really Trump bashing though. I'm not. I'm just Trump bashing would imply that I'm saying things that aren't fair about Trump. If I say anything unfair about Trump, if I say anything untrue about Trump, feel free to call me out. But I notice you haven't actually challenged me on any facts. I don't know. That seems pretty negative. Really hate it, MAGA, when comes the hot channel hot and they play the victim and don't want to talk about negativity. The card is played out. Yeah, and it's like they never want to talk about substance. They don't want to say what exactly you're saying that is wrong. It's just the fact you're saying it is wrong. I agree, Brett. I heard the quote when he said it. I knew it then and there that we would be screwed if he won. I also think that Elon fixed the 2024 elections. I've looked into that. I just don't see how that could have happened. Like I know the satellites and stuff, but the voting machines are air gapped, and I don't know. Just too many things. Hey, how you doing? I forgot. I remember asking Ampner. Is it Ampner? I forgot how to pronounce it. Do you know YouTube video SEO? No, I don't. I am not an SEO person, which probably comes true, but I don't have any money to spend on people doing it. Who wants to hear all the negatives? Well, I mean, I just want to talk about the truth. I want to talk to you. Okay. Yeah. I don't have any money, John. So it seems like all you want to talk about is negative stuff about me. I don't know. Do you think Elon and Trump all said he fixed them? I think he said he won the election. I don't think he said he fixed the voting machines. Which, I won the election. There, like, I looked into some of that, like the one lady or the one town where, like Harris didn't get a single vote, but the Democrat won. But then you look at it, and this is actually Joe Biden didn't get a single vote there either. And that's just because a rabbi endorses a candidate, and then the whole town is like all part of that Jewish community, and so everyone votes however the rabbi says. And that's like, been the case for, time immemorial. Okay, I know. I'm not going to sit there and... Okay, hang on. How do I... All right. They had proof he did interfere, but probably nothing will come out of it because rich people never get convicted or even a stern talking to. Well, that part is true. If he did, he'll get away with it. Now they're just not even they're going to do away with the pretext of even having one. So. If you're tired about it, that's fine. We all are. What else do you want to do to ensure it never happens again? That was in response to Silver, by the way. Did Silver? I think Silver might have left. Silver got mad. We were saying too many mean things about... He acts like he's not a Trump apologist, but he's always apologizing for Trump. I think that's called rose-colored glasses. Oh, he is still here. It doesn't have to be beaten. Well, it doesn't have to be beaten into your heads all the time, but look at you. You're still not learning anything. What have I said? Again, Silver, what have I said that is wrong? Challenge me on facts. Go ahead. I'm here for you. Challenge me on facts. Name one thing I have said that is wrong. Obviously, it does until he's removed from office and people are held accountable for their crimes. I'm not going to ignore it and become numb to it. None of this is supposed to be normal. I'm not going to let it be normalized. I love the attitude. I'm going to keep my anger and frustration in its absolute peak and keep pressure until it is fixed. Don't back down. And get my t-shirt. Were you here for my t-shirt? My Antifa, I'm not a terrorist t-shirt. I've got these t-shirts for if you want to get one, you can wear it to the No Kings Parade. I think Bill Clinton did a good job as president, but I think his involvement. What is his involvement with Epstein? All right, just to be clear, Epstein, there were no Epstein files when Bill Clinton was president. Nothing, there was, I think the first reports were like in the late 90s. So there might have been some reports while Bill Clinton was president, but it's not like he was involved in it somehow. And if he was, and he helped cover it up, I think he should go to jail. But nobody knew or cared who Epstein was in the 90s. To view the world in overly optimistic, favorable, or idealized way, ignoring negative aspects and leading to an unrealistic perspective. I don't have to be fixated with it 24 hours a day. I just need to deliberately push people into reality. It's becoming easier every day. It's like, have you ever watched Fox News? Fox News is just a 24-hour a day hate fest. I mean, nobody's forcing you to listen to me. I contact my senators and representatives almost daily. I haven't contacted them. I don't know why. I just don't like speaking to them. Mine is Ted Cruz. And yeah, mine would just feel like they were winning a victory by owning the libs if I called them. Mine don't care what anybody says. I'm hoping that James Tallarico is going to be my next senator. But I would still be happy if it was Jasmine Crockett. Then I could call James Tallarico or Jasmine Crockett and say, hey, putting yourself on a pedestal for not caring about anything is not even a remotely relevant position. All right. Every single comment you make is negative. Hey, I held the last comment for review. I don't know how to show it unless Kelly approves it. Oh, I don't know how to approve it from here. I'm not on the YouTube app. So I don't even know how. I've never. I don't look at the live comments except on StreamYard. That's like saying who wants to go to their job and make money all the time. One of mine is Dave McCormick. He's a MAGA. Oh. Who is... My representative is McCall. And my senators are douchebag and douchebaggerier. Do you think Trump could have gained GOP nomination if we knew about Trump in the Epstein files? You know, I'd like to say yes, or I'd like to say no, but how many? I mean, I think maybe that would have hurt because the whole QAnon thing, like a lot of his, like he barely won, right? It's not like he won in a landslide. and a lot of his right-wing support came from the QAnon crowd. So if the QAnon crowd knew he was a kitty raper, like if that allegation that has come out, that, you know, I know that it's not proven in court or anything, but the FBI felt there was enough there that they interviewed her 4 times, which makes me wonder, why did they interview her 4 times? And then why did they stop interviewing her after they interviewed her 4 times? Like, there's real questions I have, right? If they knew that, they thought Pizzagate was real. I want to say no, but knowing how they deflect, I kind of want to say yes. They might have just said it was a smear campaign by Hillary Clinton to deflect from Pizzagate. The other one is John Fetterman. He was regressive before a stroke. Now he sides more with Trump. The only benefit to Fetterman is he's not Dr. Oz. Okay, he improved the comment. I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch I don't think he'd. What was the comment? I don't watch Fox News. I don't know why. I wonder why it was filtered. Yeah, I think it's all. I kind of saw all this coming in 2020 because I was like, Biden's already old. And so if he wins in 20, then that means he's going to kind of be roped into running again in 2024. And then he's going to be too old. And so then he's not like, I kind of actually felt like all of that was going to happen. I was hoping he would announce that he just came to stop Trump, that he had done his job and now it was time for somebody else. And then they had like legitimate primaries. I think by the time he stepped down, it was too late. And I you know, there were just a number of things that there was this inevitability set in by that time. With I think October 7th made a big difference. At that point, the Democrats were either going to lose Jewish votes or lose left votes, because it was inevitable what happened in Gaza, unless he didn't send Israel the weapons. And if he didn't send Israel the weapons, then then he would have been hammered for that, and he would have lost some votes that way. And if he did send them he's going to lose votes either way, and he's going to lose money either way. I don't know. I think maybe the right thing to do would have just been do the moral thing and not send Israel money. But just from a purely electoral math, that was, at that point, there wasn't anything he could do either way. But if he weren't running for a second term, then somebody could have run on a different position with Israel. Harris was tied to his Israel position just by virtue of the fact she was his vice president. I have no idea why your comment was held. It's just YouTube does it. I got dinged for violating the YouTube policy when I didn't invite. Like, sometimes it's weird. Maybe that's why he thinks that everything I'm saying is negative and just poo-pooing Trump. I mean, I'm basically talking about everything Trump did today, not just the negative things he did. All the things he did are negative. Today in the news, this is what Trump did. One, there's this, memo that came up of a draft for an executive order where he's canceling the elections. That actually happened. He talked about the friendly takeover of Cuba. That's an actual thing. The thing that's going on with Iran, where he's stockpiling the military over there and threatening Iran with war. That's not a thing I'm making up. None of those things are hallucinatory. I talked about his stand-up thing. I'm not being negative. I'm just saying what he said. I didn't make up that he violated most of the Constitution. He violated most of the Constitution. I'm not being negative, I'm being factual. So Brett's right. If you're not paying attention, don't get mad at me for being negative. If the facts are negative, that should tell you all you need to know about Donald Trump. 100% he did not leave enough time for Kamala to even properly campaign. I would have loved to have seen a real campaign from Kamala. I thought Kamala had some really good ideas. And I think a lot of the ideas she had would directly address some of the problems we're having right now versus exacerbating them. Like, she actually had plans to bring down housing prices. And I'm not just talking about the student loan thing or the loan thing, like where you could, get loans for your first home. I'm talking about things like the if you really want to know what is driving up housing prices more than anything else, it's the not in my neighborhood. Nobody wants new houses built in their neighborhoods. And so new houses aren't being built. And she wanted to cut the red tape and make it easier for for new homes to be built so that they could have more affordable new homes. Oh, I see. If I type the comment, it will be under. Can I ask you, Brett, did you think it was fairly do you think it was hidden for a fair reason, or do you understand why it was hidden? Fetterman was okay before. I love like the charcuterie thing. That was hilarious. That tweet, I think that tweet won him the race. Remember that Dr. Oz was talking about his charcuterie board, and then he like showed the box of chopped carrots and celery with ranch dip or whatever. Absolutely, Harris was restricted by being the VP of the active president. Okay. This definitely ain't Fox. Okay. I think that's the third time you've left. But have a good day on Fox. All right. Bye. Bye-bye. MAGA has an aversion to truth and facts. He gets so mad about it. Like, it's they have to control the conversation. That even like, I'm not going on some other channel and trying to navigate it through the comments section. You got something else to say? Build up your own channel. I wouldn't get hung up on it regarding Silver. I do understand frustration with bad news. They give off the impression of being a little young and just wanting to vent. I've seen the Silver tech. Yeah, I've had enough experience on Twitter. I call it what they call it sea lioning. And somebody comes in and wants to pretend that they're there to have a good faith discussion with you, but it's never about like actually wanting to engage in facts. It's wanting to, like troll you into this, debate that is not a debate. Like, that's why I just keep saying, Silver, if you're still here, don't complain about what I'm complaining about. Challenge me on what I'm complaining about. Present facts to me of where I am wrong, and I will have a conversation with you. But I'm not going to just sit there and debate with you all day long about whether or not I'm allowed to have an opinion or whether or not you're being told you're not allowed to have an opinion. I've never once said you're not allowed to have an opinion. But I don't have to give your opinion equal weight on my channel. All right. 4 quits is a charm. Okay, all right. Let's do this. We're going to put Silver in a timeout and see how that works. Oh, whoops. I seem to have lost all my comments. Interesting. Regardless, okay. Oh, there we go. Regardless of your stance on Iran, do you think the Democrats are for war as much as Republicans? I do not. I honestly don't think that. I was just thinking about this the other day. The wars that we fought in my lifetime, and you know, there's like conflicts, and then there's wars. All right. There was the war in Afghanistan, which I think maybe the majority of Democrats were for, but it was also the majority of Republicans were for. It was a Republican-led charge, and George Bush was the Republican president. And there was never really an authorization for war the way it's presented. There was a considerable amount of pushback from Democrats that were like, or with Afghanistan, there was more. Yeah, Afghanistan, we should go to war with. But with Iraq, there was no authorization for war. There was a conditional permission that if you go to the UN and the UN approves it, then we can go to war. And they went to the UN and the UN didn't approve it, but we went to war anyway. Democrats never voted for that. They never agreed on that. Republicans didn't. Republicans never pushed back on that. There were some, so Clinton, there was like some minor stuff with, I mean, comparably to like an actual war. There were some comparable things like, or some conflicts, but no real wars under Clinton. Like in terms of like actual boots on the ground or anything. You know, Black Hawk Down and all that, but not like a full scale military conflict. So there was the Iran war was started by a Republican president. The Iraq war, or the Afghanistan war was started by a Republican president. The Iraq war was started by a Republican president. The before that was Gulf War I, which was a war, like a real war, that was started by a Republican president. But that one, I think most Democrats were behind. And I think the way he executed that, he did what he said, pushed Iraq out. You know, I think that the premise of the war was valid. Like, you can't just go and invade other countries and take them over, which has its own irony nowadays, right? So he got the world behind him, and then he pushed Iraq out of Kuwait, and then left it there. And Trump says he should have gone and stolen their oil, of course. But that is a war that I would say was, mutual. Like both Democrats and Republicans were for it, but it was still a Republican president. There were some minor wars that were kind of more than a conflict, but not exactly full-scale wars, like Panama and there was another one under Reagan. And then there was the whole thing in Lebanon where the Marines were bombed. So there was, like some major military casualties under Reagan. And because he escalated the whole Cold War thing. I do not recall any Democrats really pushing war stuff. The closest you might be able to come is Obama, escalating things to different countries to fight ISIS. But again, that was Republicans were actually saying he should do more. It's not like anybody was defending ISIS or something. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question. I do not think the Democrats are as much for war as Republicans. I haven't seen that. What I've seen in my 58 years on the earth is Republicans are the ones that tend to push for war. I kind of, yeah, I didn't ban him. I just put him on timeout because it was just like every other comment was his comment. The most nefarious thing I can pin on Clinton. Okay, wait. The second most nefarious thing I can pin on Clinton is how some of his economic reform essentially caused that. I would say it's true, but it's not true. Like, let's say you left the pilot or you left the stove light on, you left the stove on, and then somebody comes in and they put a newspaper on top of it, and then the house catches on fire because the newspaper caught on fire because you left the stove on. There was what it was. I can't remember the name of the act. There was an act that was passed in 2000, like at the end of 2000. He signed it like 21 days before he was leaving office, and he signed it saying, it's just going to be signed. It was a Republican thing, and he was like, it's just going to be, signed in 3 weeks anyway. And that repealed some of the legislation and some of the regulations that allowed 2020 or the collapse in 2008 to happen. And I mean, he's right. It would have just gone through the House and the Senate again, and it would have just gotten voted for, and then Bush would have signed it. So it's not like it wouldn't have been signed if Clinton didn't sign it, but maybe you can say he should have still just in principle not signed it. And the other part of that is where I think maybe NAFTA had some issues, and I think there were some issues with what was I thinking of? There was something else that I can't think of it right now. I have a couple of issues with Clinton, but I think he was a pretty good president overall, especially compared to the current clown. At least he understood how to spell tap. Yeah, Clinton is the guy that did NAFTA. Yeah. Yeah. Clinton was the one, the famous Al Gore Ross Perot debate, where Ross Perot was wrong, by the way, but there was no giant sucking sound. I think what people miss on NAFTA is there was a different detriment to the U.S. economy. It wasn't jobs going south. It was farms going south. A lot of the stuff that used to be grown here, we got to be cheaper to grow. And so then a lot of farms went under because of NAFTA. Yeah, he didn't make the changes. He signed the legislation that made the changes. And then that legislation, there was more legislation passed on. But like I said, it was like he was a lame duck. It was like the last month of his presidency, and Bush would have signed it anyway. It would have just passed again and been signed anyway. So it's not that if he hadn't done that, then 2008 would have happened. If he hadn't done that, it would have just been a month later that somebody else signed it. Deregulated banks. Yeah, that's what the legislation did. How do you think we can get away from tribalism in politics? I think we get away from tribalism in politics by talking about issues rather than people and rather than parties. Like, I think we could get away from, I use the example of immigration all the time. We need to figure out what to do about immigration and stop making it about open borders or closed borders. We need to make things not about binary issues, not about false dichotomies. The difference between open borders and closed borders is Joe Biden honored the laws about asylum and Donald Trump doesn't. The issue is not whether the borders are open or closed. The issue is that we need to review what our asylum laws are and determine how we can make sure that we're allowing people that require asylum have an honest asylum case, get it, and get it quickly. But people aren't able to take advantage of the system. We need to evaluate our immigration laws so that people can come over here that don't have master's degrees or relatives that can come over here and take the jobs that are the low paying jobs the way they did for the first 200 years of our history. And by doing that, they've kept the U.S. economy growing and kept the American dream alive. Like, we need to have a conversation about immigration instead of open or closed borders or whether or not you hate Donald Trump. We need to just talk about immigration as immigration. We need to talk about healthcare as healthcare. We need to determine what is our goal with defense spending. Why do we need to spend half our, federal revenue on defense spending? Why is it so important that we have the biggest, most powerful military in the world to such a degree that we spend more money on our military than the rest of the world combined? Why do we need to have a country that can defeat the rest of the world combined while we have children going hungry in our country and while we have children going without health care? Like, we need to talk about policy. We need to talk about moral issues. And we need to talk less about culture wars and whether or not you're for this candidate or that candidate. More communication and cooperation with opposition. I think that's true, and I think the way we do that is by talking about issues. People need to be highly educated to get away from tribalism. If they wear a baseball cap with a team, they shouldn't be voting. If you need to wear a hat to remind you who you voted for, you might not be that bright. Yes, at least Clinton's indiscretion was an adult. Yeah, that was the other thing, the whole Monica thing. And I feel like she kind of, if that happened 20 years later, the story would have been like, imagine if that happened during Me Too. I think during Me Too, she actually got a bit of an apology from the world. I used to run a Discord community that intentionally kept 50-50 on political ideology. I was shocked at the level of cooperation when you have somebody who's level-headed work with people through their discussions and conflicts. I love to have, and that's why I keep telling Silver, hey, if you have actual factual things, issues with what I'm saying, let me know what they are. It was truly amazing. I feel like I actually was able to reach people better and push for proper healthy change. However, it also used to drive me kind of crazy. And by 2020, I couldn't keep it. Oh, so that was in the early years of Trump. Yeah. It's like, here's my theory on what's happened with the Trump supporters. Is it's like a sunk cost fallacy on politics. That in 2016, you just bought into the economic anxiety nonsense, right? And then as time went on, you had him making fun of the handicapped people, a handicapped reporter, right? And you're like, oh, well, that's just liberals being oversensitive. But then you gave yourself permission to justify that kind of behavior. And so it became, that's just Trump. That's, you managed to distinguish between Trump and the office of the president of the United States that you expect anybody else to honor. And, when he talks about, when he encourages people to beat up people and stuff, and you just keep giving that little part of your soul away, because each time that happens, you're like, have I given that man that much of my soul already? No, I can't be that, I couldn't have done that. So that must be okay. And so they just keep giving away more and more of their soul because they don't want to admit they were they were wrong in giving that much of their soul over already. And so now we're like all the way into this. He's tried to overthrow the country. He's buried reports that he raped children, and he's conquered other countries without even letting Congress know first. He's done all of these things, like things that would have been pure political suicide by any other candidate in the history of our country. Like they wouldn't last a day. It wouldn't last a day. Can you imagine if Bill Clinton, if they had found out that he had, you know, done what that 13-year-old girl accused Trump of doing? Can you imagine if that came out against Clinton while he was president? They tried to impeach him over Monica. I mean, technically over a lie, but it's just they gradually gave, and there are some that said, no, that's a bridge too far. Michael Steele said, no, I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. I am not him. You know, Joe Walsh, pretty right-wing guy, but he was a conservative. He's like, nope, Joe Scarborough, believe it or not, still probably a Republican at heart. Was an actual elected Republican like Joe Walsh. So now it seems like they have more in common with the Democrats than they do with the Republicans, because it's the Republicans that shifted. The Republicans shifted into this party of MAGA. And if you went along for the ride, now you have to admit that you've been wrong for the last 10 years and you've been just accommodating this evil man for the last 10 years. So rather than do that, you double down on defending him over and over again. And it just gets harder and harder to admit, which makes it harder and harder to have a rational conversation with them. That's my opinion. That's why I like that. That's why it gets exhausting. That's why you see things, you know, like Silver there, that, you know, and just can't seem to respond to facts. It's hard to have a discussion when the proof of the people are spamming EBT queens, green-haired radicals. Yeah. Why isn't your hair blue? I agree with talking about the negative policies of each party. I am an independent. I want the truth. Stations like Fox push tribalism. Silver will be back. He has an extensive history with this. He does. There's some. I wonder what happened. There used to be this guy, Damon something or other. He seemed like he was pretty reasonable. Skippy is a conservative. Skippy's another one that, you know, I think he's a conservative, but he's refused to hand his soul over to Donald Trump. Silver's history: moderated activities in the last year, 3 deleted messages, 1 timeout, 0 hides. The 1 timeout is where he went just now. 3 to Kitty must have deleted the messages. Kitty deletes messages sometimes instead of. But she had some other stuff to do today. Anyway, I think we're done with everything for the day, and we're all caught up on the comments. So you guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday.